Everyone ready?
You ready?
Is everyone a little bit nervous right now? Being nervous is good. Welcome to episode 1 of Between Two Racks with the Kilo Crew. Before we start, I want to do a quick intro monologue for my teammates. I have much more to say about each of you, but I did my best to keep this short and sweet. Sitting to my left is Stephane the Goat Cazeault. If you're tuning in today, chances are you are very familiar with Stéphane and what makes him so special. He currently, and I say currently because I am confident that this will change, believes that he has said it all and has nothing left to say. But I know that is far from the truth. There are parts of your brain, Steph, that are unspoken and unteachable. Spending time around you and listening to every word you say regarding the intricacies of programming can expand anyone's mind to see so much more for their craft. Ignore the noise. Which leads me to Pauric the Tank O'Rourke. We hired Pauric in 2019 to join the crew because we saw his brain had a deep understanding of our philosophies and methodologies, and he was able to apply our principles correctly and confidently with his own twist. We also very much enjoyed his company, which as a small family entrepreneurship-style business is vital to creating success and growth. Speaking of family, you all know and love her, Alexandra, the smiling assassin, Bernardin. She has been a coach for over 30 years, longer than most of you have been alive. She embodies the essence of adaptability and client-focused training. Alexandra brings a grounding and often realistic perspective that complements the depth of knowledge held by Stéphane and Pauric regarding strength training theory. Simply put, we are a team of 3 seasoned coaches, plus myself, Kelsey Miss Bossy DeSanctis, a fiery get-shit-done groupie that have a shared passion for excellence in strength training and program design. At Kilo, we believe in empowering our coaches with the knowledge and tools to excel in their craft. Our mission is to provide optimized systems that streamline coaches' programming and periodization, leading to better decision-making and ultimately superior outcomes for their clients and their business. Between Two Racks will not be scripted. Yes, this intro was 100% scripted, and another monologue may happen again if I'm being honest. But this one was for all of us to settle into our nerves after I hit the record button for the very first time. We promise to do our best to make every episode enjoyable, informative, and most importantly, authentic. Now, let's kick it! All right, crew. I acknowledge that our industry has addressed this very first topic I'm about to bring up many times before. I still believe it's crucial for our students to hear our perspective on what we believe defines a world-class personal trainer, in addition to writing effective programs, of course. I'm going to turn this one over to Stéphane first.
So to me, the most important thing that you need to be a great personal trainer or strength coach, it might seem obvious, but it's personality. Like, you need to have a good personality to make it in this business. So you need to lead by example. You need to be jovial. And you need to be able to smile, which is not necessarily my greatest skill, but it's something that's really important. So to me, personality is probably the first thing that you need to make sure that's on your side if you want to be a good trainer.
For sure. That's a big one.
Yep.
Pauric, what's the first one that comes to your mind?
The first one, so a very overarching one, is professionalism. Show up on time.
That's a good one.
Always be respectful of the clients. Be respectful of their time. If you say you're going to do something, do it. Do it to your best of your ability. It's more of an overarching one. It's not going to dictate your results as much as anything, but it will keep client retention high. It will bolster your business in the long term.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a big part of a personality, is if someone has professionalism. Alex?
I will say curiosity. And by curiosity, I mean, when you have a client in front of you, you want to learn what makes them tick. You want to learn why they move a certain way. You want to be able to change that. You have to be curious enough about them to make them into who they want to be and like a better human.
I like that one. Steph, I'm going to turn it back to you. We'll keep kind of going around and see what we all come up with.
Like another attribute that to me is really, really important, I think that people like disregard that one a little bit, but is to be organized, to have organizational skills. Yeah. Now, I'll give you guys a good example. Like when I started as a trainer at Sanctuary in Montreal, it's called Midtown now, but that's where I met Alex. So I started in 99. And at the time, I was the youngest coach. I was 21. I was still a student at university. But at the time, there was maybe 30 trainers, and I was the only one. And again, you need to rewind to 1999 because right now it wouldn't sound as special, but I was the only one who would walk on the gym floor with a clipboard, a written program. I would purposely wear a stopwatch. I would time rest periods. I would count tempo. I would log in the weights and the reps on my workout sheet. Not only that, but then when I moved to the U.S. and I had my own office, then the athletes would come into the office, and the first thing they would always talk about is how neat, clean, organized, not a mess the office was. But then at university, on the flip side, one of my professors, you went to his office and it was like books everywhere, like papers everywhere, research papers everywhere. Like it was like chaotic. But my point with all this is one of the reasons why I always wanted to show my office being super neat and clean is for the clients to see that I am organized. So if my office is organized, if my life seems organized, it also means that your training will be organized, that I'll make sense of everything. And I think it's one of those like subconscious things that the client sees. So he sees you have your stopwatch, you have your program, you have your workout, you count tempo, you look at the rest period. So I think it's just really, well, it kind of ties in the professionalism thing, but to me that's important.
And nowadays, it might not be a clipboard. I know some people are still pen and paper. I still believe everyone should adapt with the time, and there are now apps that can get your clients even more engaged. So having like an iPad, but I still personally, if I'm working with a coach, I don't want to see the coach with a phone during any of the session. So I do think having something like an iPad, if you're using those apps, are better than just using their phone, or still do pen and paper, but I think it's a little outdated now.
There's better technology there now.
Exactly.
You may as well make use of it.
Yeah. I'm not saying that all you that use pen and paper, there's anything wrong with it, but there are better options now to be more organized. Okay.
But I just want to say, I was the second person at the Sanctuary to have a paper. So even way back then, I was like, wait, I was curious to see what he was doing. And I'm like, he seems like he knows what he's doing with his. And then I had my stopwatch. And then I had my piece of paper.
And do you still have any of those programs, Steph?
Yeah. But like another thing like that ties in with the curiosity, that's another very crucial attribute for me, is the communication skill. Yeah. And like with communications, of course, you have verbal and nonverbal. The verbal is very straightforward, but the nonverbal, people disregard it. And the one thing that it caught my attention very, very early on, but so many trainers don't think about this, is when I was working the floor shift, like at Sanctuary, and I was studying the other trainers, the amount of times that I saw customers, like clients of the gym, look at the trainer train their clients and see the client's face or the customer's face on, or their reaction from what they've seen the trainer do with the client, that caught my attention. I'm like, man, it's not just about the communication that you have with your client right now, but it's also the nonverbal communication that your future potential client sees. Yeah. Because if you're training your client and your client is doing a set of 10 on dumbbell press, and during that time as the coach, you're looking at your phone as you're counting your reps. Yes, your client doesn't see you, you're looking at the phone, but all of the other clients in the gym that could potentially buy your services, now they see you're not a serious trainer because you're on your phone and you don't care about the client. So that, to me, is something that really caught my attention very early on.
But that's also like your walking billboard, right? So they see, the potential clients see how you act. I had a bunch of clients who would say, like, I watched you for like 2-3 months, and they come to me. The people who would come to me wouldn't necessarily go to Steph. Yeah. But you always have to think that someone else is watching.
And it's not always just when you're training other people. It's when you're training yourself
too.
So as long as you have to train well and
so you need to
respect all your tempos, respect your depth and all that there that you expect your clients to do. If you're not going to do that, they aren't going to really truly commit to you thinking that is important.
Yeah, and the advantage of doing what you're saying is you're going to potentially attract clients that want that from their training. Mm-hmm. So for you, who's already naturally training that way, it makes for a better connection with the client because you don't need to fake anything. That's just your personality is personality, like a type A type of person. So
That kind of ties into the big point that I had for this discussion. So I am not a coach, but I am an athlete, a trainee, a client. So as a coach, I think your highest priority always needs to be to have the best interests of your clients. So saying that, I don't think that every coach is right for every client.
For sure.
And I think that all personal trainers and coaches need to have the ability to say, I'm not the right match for you, but let me help find you someone that will match your personality or does have the knowledge to handle any issues that you may have. So we have people reach out to us all the time and looking for training. I'm sitting with who I believe are the 3 best strength coaches, but a client comes to me and says some things and I'm like, well, you're not a match for any of my coaches, but we have coaches all around the world that I follow on social media, and I see their personalities, I see how they work with clients, I see them when they come to live courses. So it's kind of like playing matchmaker, and I can pair that client with someone. So I think that's a big part of being a coach, is knowing when the client isn't for you, because our goal should always be to get everyone into weight training and that they stick to it. But that takes knowing if you're not right for someone.
Yeah. I also think that, so yeah, you have all these attributes that are needed to be a good coach, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to have all of them to be good. It's more like if you have a few of them, but you're really good at the few attributes that you have, it can compensate. So, like, for example, I'll take myself as an example. I was joking earlier with the personality, but my biggest roadblock starting in that industry, and even the boss at the time at the Sanctuaire, like, he would bring me in his office and he would always tell me how bad my personality is. I'm never going to make it in this world because I have such a bad personality. My body language, I don't smile, blah, blah, blah. I had I was really big in, well, I still am, but I was really big into hip hop, and I had like the earrings. I had the earring on the
eyebrow.
We need to find a picture.
Like LL Cool J.
And he straight up said, you need to get rid of this because it makes you unapproachable, and on and on and on and on. I did. I took it out, but the point here is I didn't have a great personality as a first impression type of thing, but So because of that, it took me a very long time to build a decent clientele. It took me at least 18 months to really build a client base. But although I didn't have that flashy first impression personality, I was able to really connect with my client on another level through communication. And it made it so that once I had a client, I would rarely ever lose them. Yep. So my retention was really, really good. And when we moved to the US in 2005, like a lot of the clients that I still had 7 years later or 6 years later were clients I've had since the beginning. So yes, personality is great, but it doesn't mean that if you don't have one of these attributes, you can't make it. Yep. But, you know.
And there's all different types of personalities. There's all different, but I think there's still, you still want to have some level of
and then you have to be able to talk to you, and like your clients also felt comfortable to talk to you, even if you're not like the jovial person. They were still like.
But remember, like, I know you remember him. I won't say his name, but it was this one guy, this one trainer, really, really great guy, super nice guy. His personality was so outgoing, like so like charming. Like he would he would get like a new client every day, all the time. But he had the crazy rotation. Though. Like his retention wasn't good.
Because once the fun wears off, then the client still wants to see results and wants to feel better and all those things. So if you're just...
It's still a relationship. Yeah. Like you are entering some level of relationship.
I mean, it's a deep relationship. And I love to talk about this with people. Like, how many of your friends do you see consistently for 3-4 hours every week for years on end? Yeah. So, like, you do build a relationship and they do become your friends. And it's like, it's crucial to have that aspect too, but you still got to get the job done.
So that actually leads into the next one, because my next one is the ability to get results. Yeah. So it's taken a bit of a turn from the other ones, which more character traits. This is your ability to get results. And one of the huge limiting factors I've seen time and time again is load selection. People
that's a good one. Yeah.
Really struggle with load selection. It just comes with time and experience, but you should be able to see your client, know their level of exertion, and know whether you've got the right load, it's underloaded.
That's a deep one.
It's a hard.
This is not something. Yeah.
But like, I know someone who's listening to this has had a somewhat new trainer or trainee give them a load that they could do 12 reps on, no problem. Increase that load by 5 pounds, and they got 2 reps. Yeah, like it is just like hitting a brick wall. And
it's a skill that needs to be learned, and it takes time. It's not that easy, but I'm with you guys all the time, and I never know. And we're training, and I can just look over to any one of you, and I'm like, what load do I need right now? And then you guys can just say it to me, and it's the correct load. And we see it in courses as well. We have trainers looking over at us, asking what load. So that goes back to walking the walk. You need to be training yourself to really understand load selection and how to properly use load selection in training.
But that point also ties into the organized component, because if you don't keep track of load because like if you're training like 25 clients and you don't keep track, how do you know? You're lost. So you can't make educated guesses. But that's such a good point, because that, like, load selection will be the difference between results or no results.
Exactly. It's like, to me, it's not the basis, because the program design, the periodization has to be good. But once it comes down to execution, it's very, very high up on the list that people mess up and don't actually put a lot of thought into. They never actually overly consider. There's like, oh, there's 45s over there, that should go in the bar. It's never, all right, what did they do the last time? What level of progression do we think's possible? Have they done a rep range similar to this before? Like anything.
Yeah. That kind of one just popped into my head. There's load selection, and I know this might sound like a silly one, and this might be something that all of you listening, it's quite obvious, but I think that quality of movement and really getting good at knowing how
coaching
exercises should be executed properly is really important.
Because you'll see a lot of coaches. That was one of my things too, is like being able to correct and like coach someone. Like not everyone's going to have the same looking movement. Like you have to decide what's better for that client or what that client can do based on their abilities and stuff. But like you got to be picky. But you have to be picky, but you can't overdo it. 10 different things for them to focus on at once either. So you have to kind of just pick like a few things that they need to work on and keep reminding them and coaching them, and then you can go from there.
Yeah.
But there's also like one other important point also I just want to add is leadership. But leadership can be a wide term, like leading by example, but it can also be like influential or motivational. And I think that goes a long way because, and I talk about this with you guys all the time. Yes, everybody would benefit from strength training, but not everybody should strength train in the sense that not everybody likes strength training. So some people will hire a trainer because they were told they need to strength train. So they come to their sessions, but they're not passionate about it. Now, as the coach, if you have good leadership skills and you convey your passion about strength training to the client and you motivate the client about strength training and they get to the point where they understand strength training, how it should be, and they get motivated by strength training, now you created a complete shift in the client's perception of strength training. Now that client is motivated about strength training, and because he's motivated and more passionate about it, now he gets results and he actually reaps the benefits of it. And I've told this example in the past in class, but I used to train back in Montreal a French horn player for the Montreal Symphonic Orchestra. And he hired me after like kind of what Alex was saying. He looked at me in the gym for about 3 months. He noticed I was serious. He hires me. But his initial goal was just to be healthy, health and fitness as a musician. Like, cool, let's train. But I'm passionate about strength training. I conveyed that through our times together to the point where he became so motivated by it. And like these are real numbers. It's crazy. When we started, the guy was late 20s. He was 29 years old at the time. He was 5'8", and he was 150 pounds, and he had about 15% body fat with the caliper. A year later, he was close to 190 pounds. He was single-digit body fat, and his strength had almost tripled. And he loved it. Now he was in love with strength training. Like, he became my best client. But the funny part about it, though, is at one point, he realized that it was impeding his performance as a French horn player. Like, he had so much muscle mass that
jacked horn player.
that he was running out of breath all the time. So we needed to scale it down. So brought his weight down to 170. It was more manageable. But my point with this story is all this was because of the influence I conveyed through leadership, through the coaching, through my own passion of strength training.
I mean, it goes back to what you started just with, saying that you don't believe that everyone should strength train. And I know when we always have this discussion, we believe that everyone should strength train. But we believe in longevity of strength training and strength training for longevity purposes. But in the end, and we don't use this often, but we are part of the fitness industry. But there are many different facets to the fitness industry. So I agree with you in the sense where every client needs to find something that they'll stick to, that they enjoy, because in the end, it is about being healthier.
And doing it consistently.
Yeah, and doing it consistently.
I wonder, but though, if a lot of people who don't like strength training is because they haven't been influenced by someone who truly loves strength training like we do, and then showing them how it's like how cool is it? Like, we can see the weights go up. Like, you weren't able to do a push-up. Now you can, like, it's just trying to get to them to make them understand. I get it. Some people will never.
Yeah, because
never, but there's a few that, we've been able to convert.
I see your point, but then to use that logic, it would mean that, let's say, a Kenyan marathon runner who's super passionate would talk to me and somehow would become motivated to start running marathon. No, so that's never going to happen.
We know that you're not very influenceable.
No,
but it doesn't mean you couldn't be convinced to do some level of aerobic work.
Yeah.
Because you just went from nothing to marathon. That's like saying, okay, this person who hates strength training is going from nothing to trying to compete in the Olympics.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah. Oh, man.
Okay, so we have covered personality, professionalism, curiosity, organization, communication, admitting you might not be the right fit for a client, ability to get results, and specifically load selection, quality of movement, and leadership ability. Anyone want to add anything else right now?
Hygiene.
Personal hygiene.
Personal
shots fired.
Falls under professionalism.
Yeah, but sometimes like people need to hear it. You can't be showing up stinky when you're charging people
Brush
to train with you.
Brush your teeth. Avoid heavy amounts of garlic.
Yep. I really stopped eating garlic when I started training people. I remember when it was like within the first year or something, I was spotting a client. She's like, "Whoo, you had garlic." I never used garlic after that, ever. I was like, that is not going to be my thing.
Dinner time only.
But it's like, just to get back to the whole like strength training thing, what's hard is like us, you included.
We weren't excluding him.
No, you don't know what I'm going to say. Okay. It's like we're used to train in like private studio type gyms.
Yeah.
That's what we're used to. So my sanctuary days, like from 99 to 2005, that gym had 5,000 members. It was huge. So there was a ton of people there that clearly did not care whatsoever about strength training. Remember that woman?
I know who you're talking about.
She would jump on the leg extension, monopolize the leg extension for 30 minutes, and she would be doing reps while reading a book.
What you don't remember is she became my client. She became my client because, I don't know, she approached me. I didn't, and then the first workout, she pulls out her book. I'm like, no. I am not going to watch you read a book.
Yeah, man, but that's horrible. Like that zapped my energy for a workout. Like seeing this, and then when we moved to Cali and was building Kilo, now for a little bit we worked out at what's the name, Equinox, for like 6 months, and so now, like 10, 12 years later, like back in a commercial gym, that was brutal.
And it's entertaining, but yeah.
That's where I decided to just do leg press because everybody that was like two squat racks.
And calves.
Leg press and calves, that was pretty much it because the two squat racks were always taken by people doing like dips on the side pins and
curls.
The only machine that was always free was the leg press. I'm like, screw this, I'll do an hour of leg press. That's it.
That's where it all started.
I think all of these go back to, again, caring. Like you really need to care about your clients, and there's all different levels of caring because I know I've been around Alexandra in the gym for so many years on the floor with clients, and she cares on a very personal, loving way that everyone can see and feel. But then Pauric and Steph have a different way of showing they really care about someone. And I think it goes back to there being all different types of clients, so the clients being able to find the right coach for them.
Another big one for results that is a more practical one again is coaches changing exercises before the client has the skill of doing the exercise. So they've spent say it's 3 sessions, so it's time to change exercise, and they're going to, that the client hasn't built a skill, so they've never actually had any output in this exercise yet. Like, these clients don't need new exercise. They need to develop a skill to allow for a greater output, to allow for changes, to get the results that they came to you for. So just because you're slightly bored of watching and coaching this exercise doesn't mean it's a good time to change this exercise.
So that would be adaptability, right? So we have a set of rules, but then sometimes you got to just adapt to the person that you have in front of you.
But that's the problem, though, like the whole boring component, because coaches fall for that all the time. Not only are they getting bored themselves, which is a weird thing because you're providing a service, but they always talk about the client being bored with the same exercise.
You're like, well, you haven't done the exercise yet.
You can't base programming out of their perceived boredness of doing something. It's just weird. And I always use this example. That would be like telling a basketball player, like telling Michael Jordan, so he doesn't get bored of shooting a free throw with that exact same motion, like every day, change your throwing motion so you don't get bored of that movement pattern. Makes zero sense.
Yeah.
And they're probably doing a different movement pattern for every rep anyway. So it's like they've done 12 different reps.
That's very true. Like beginners are the only one that they can do like a set of squat, but somehow tap in all of their motor unit pool.
Every rep was different.
They changed stance like 3 reps in. It's like, no, I didn't like that one. Then back into now. Yeah, it takes a while.
Okay, so I think we're going to wrap up that topic. I kind of wanted to flip to another topic. Steph, last week you tuned in on your stories since, I don't know, it was the first time you actually posted a story in how long do you think it was?
A story? I don't know. I don't even know if I ever posted a story.
You used to post stories.
Okay.
But that story was all about ignoring the noise and how you were currently kind of needed a break, needed to take yourself out of the daily grind to look back on it. So I kind of wanted to have you speak on that as we're creating more noise.
I mean, the whole ignore the noise thing, it's just that like I was saying, I do spend some time on social media on a weekly basis, but I mostly see like our student stuff, and I want to break away from training. So I studied other things, but eventually I couldn't help myself. So I'm like, okay, I want to see what's out there in the world of training. So I really took a deep dive on social media accounts that I don't necessarily go on to try to see what was happening. And it's just crazy because the information is all over the place, right or wrong. Some of it's good, some of it not so much. So, but irrespective of it, there's such a non-cohesive message that's promoted through the industry that I was just feeling that as a young coach starting in the industry, I would be incredibly confused about what to do and how to approach training with my clients based off of the information that we see nowadays. Because it seems like you do one thing, you turn around, that one thing you're doing, somebody else is saying it's crap. So then you do the thing that person said the other thing was crap. You turn around, somebody else is saying that thing is crap and the other thing is crap too. So then you do that thing, and then it never ends. It's all over the place.
Which is not what strength training should be.
I mean, at least not to me, but it's just, I just thought it was very, very confusing. And then some of the feedback I got from some of my followers was that even as they are more advanced coaches, they still feel the same way. So my whole premise was it must be so confusing for a young coach starting up. But what they were saying is even as a coach who's been doing it for 10 plus years, they are still confused sometimes. So my message was spend time studying and going around to see what style of training or training philosophy you like that fits you. And then once you find it, try to go as deep as you can with that model and get the best you can in that style and ignore the noise so you can actually progress. Because if you don't dig deep into one style, you're just going to be floating around in a cloud of randomness.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I think it must be so hard nowadays for a lot of young coaches because we have all of these influencers out here and it's very showy. So, of course, people are drawn to the showiness, and it's so easy to get distracted nowadays, where you go back to when you were talking about in the 90s where you had your clipboard, and then I remember you always saying that you would go to the library, read books, or you'd wait for that one time T-Nation would post the article every Friday or what it was. But now they're sitting on a break trying to write programs, they open up their Instagram and someone's saying something about how to do volume for hypertrophy differently. So then that starts. So then they totally shift how they're writing the programs. So I think that's
another thing though, like that all this made me realize is because that social media education that these younger coaches get it's such like little flashes, little glimpse of things that everything is out of context, which makes it so that they're used to learn things out of context. And some of them, I noticed, they come to our courses where everything is structured, everything has its place. And even though everything is structured, everything has its place, people get that information and then they use it out of context. Although it was presented in a very specific context, it's almost like their brain lost the skill of contextualizing. They take the information and then they apply it to the wrong thing. Yeah. Then I'm like, no, this is another course which uses a different philosophy. So you can't apply that. So I think it's really, really important to understand that strength training has a lot of nuances and components that needs to be understood and compartmentalized in the proper scenario in order to use it properly.
And it's not just like you're not going to get the whole picture in one post. Like a lot of people think they can just learn to be a really great coach just by reading posts.
That's why I like books better.
And application of whatever
coming
you're
to
learning.
Courses, like doing things. Like you're not going to be a great coach just by reading Instagram.
And then speaking of books, because one of our early mentors was really, really big on reading, and to a point where he almost made it a competition and a pride. Hey, I read 200 books this year.
Yeah.
Cool. How many of these 200s can you remember?
Exactly.
Nothing. What about this book? Do you remember that? No, I don't remember. So
maybe read 5 books 5 times each. And then you'll
exactly.
Well, that goes back to my introduction to you about you ignoring the noise and feeling that you've said it all and you have nothing left to say. So many people need to hear the same thing so many times.
And sometimes just different ways, right? Like you hear it one way the first time. You come back to a course, you hear it differently, or someone else says it, and it's the same thing. Then it starts to become part of your...
Or just hearing it or reading again when you've got to a new level of knowledge.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
If you have a better understanding of underlying principles, then hear the same thing again. It means something completely different.
For sure.
Yeah, like when I was 21, like my fifth point of being a good coach was knowledge. Knowledge is important, of course, but it's just one aspect. But knowledge it's like on a scale. Like when I was 21, I thought I had a ton of knowledge. I thought I must be top 10 in the world in knowledge. That's what I thought at 21. But to my defense, amongst the trainers where I lived at the time, the trainers came to me for knowledge. Yeah. So in my little bubble, I felt, oh shit, I'm great. But now 25 years later, compared to the knowledge that I have now, man, I knew nothing. Yeah. And now I think that I know nothing now.
Yeah.
So it's nuts. It's crazy. So that's why, to me, I have a ton of respect for all these like guys like André Benoit, for example, like guys who've been doing it for years and years and years and years,
Being
and just
a coach.
being a coach and having the experience. That to me is like it's worth so much.
I do think, I know your social media, you do not use social media to its full capacity. You just follow students. You don't follow anyone but students. Like, do you even follow Tom Brady?
No.
Yeah. Tom Brady's your favorite athlete and you don't even follow him. And you love sports, you love football, you love all these things, and you don't follow any athletes. So my social media, I follow the things that I find motivation in, that I enjoy in, that are hobbies, so that I don't go on Instagram and just get like frustrated with everything I see. So, Steph, you need to start spending some time curating your social media a little bit more.
Spends too much time on the hourglass.
Like the magnifying glass.
What's it called? Like, what's the name of that?
Discover. I think so.
And all he discovers is more training things that gets him fired up. Okay. Well, that was fun.
Yep, we did it.
We did our first episode of Between Two Racks with the Kilo Crew. Thank you for tuning in. We hope to hear... Fuck. Hold on.
No, just roll with it.
Just roll it. I fucked it up. Does anyone have any closing thoughts?
Only follow one 90-degree principle.
That's funny.
That could mean nothing to so many people.
You're like, search for it.
Steph, any closing remarks for episode 1 of Between Two Racks?
Well, to go along with what Pauric was saying, 190 degree, but also there is no such thing as 180 degrees in strength training.
Okay. Thanks, Steph. Here we go.
No, it's because anyway.
No, it's because what?
Because in class, I always say that you need to train your pressing movements through the entire 180 degree spectrum, from the overhead to the dip. But if we're being very, very specific, it's not like the dip, you're like 100% fully upright, you're leaning forward a little bit. So I'm just saying it's not exactly 180 degrees.
This is what keeps Steph up at night. He's been wanting to say this for the last 6 years.
I think we'll end it on that one. See you next time, fam.